Next on The Reveal, a South Georgia man strangled to death in his own home.
He went in the house and he found him in there dead.
A woman arrested after an interrogation.
She don't care who she hurt.
Following a questionable admission.
I would hesitate to call this a confession.
And a piece of evidence that could turn the entire case and others like it upside down.
It's garbage. It should not be used in court.
From our Midtown studios in Atlanta, The Reveal begins now with our multi-Emmy and National Mural Award-winning team of investigators.
Welcome to The Reveal. I'm Andy Perotti. Evidence used to convict and put a woman behind bars for life is now back under the microscope. It involves the murder of a man in a South Georgia town and an interrogation with a questionable confession and flawed forensics most scientists now believe is so unreliable it should be banned from court. With flashlights in hand, Waycross police search for clues inside a home nearly 16 years ago. Drops of blood discovered on a kitchen wall.
I wonder if he saw that.
Bed sheets soaked in blood, and a strong odor of hydrogen peroxide. Hours before, the homeowner, Eugene Garner, is nowhere to be found until a neighbor stopped by to check in.
He went in the house and he found him in there dead.
His body lying next to his own bed, strangled to death. Bones in his face and nose fractured. He was 73 years old. Ruth Taylor is Garner's sister.
There was a time that, oh Lord, I didn't think I was gonna make it because my brother and I were very tight and I miss him.
Investigators found no suspicious DNA, no unfamiliar fingerprints either. A few days later, police questioned a woman who admits to having a relationship with Garner, 37-year-old Sheila Denton.
Sheila, let me explain to you what we're going to do, okay?
But she's not interested in talking.
Sheila, I'm Detective Woods, okay? How you doing? You need to wake up. You take this swig of drink.
Let's talk until tomorrow.
Detectives expand their search and question another woman, Shannon Jones. She tells investigators she sold drugs to Denton the evening Garner died, and she is no friend.
But she don't care who she hurt, man. She don't care what she say. She don't care.
Jones tells detectives she once saw Denton hit an ex-boyfriend, and then investigators discover a possible motive: money to fund Denton's drug habit.
Oh yeah, everybody knew that. Everybody that dealt with him or was around him in a length of time knew that he had all this money in his pocket. He had a roll of money in his pocket big enough to choke a cow.
On August 13th, 2004, police charged Denton with Garner's murder. At her trial, Jones tells the jury she saw Denton with an unusual amount of money the night Garner died. And that's not all. She also claims Denton confessed to killing Garner. The jury appeared to believe it, convicting and then sentencing her to life in prison.
I think she needed to die there. He died at home, so that's her home now, so let her die at home. That's the way I feel. Mm-hmm.
My sister is a nice person.
More than a decade later, Denton's family feels the wrong person is behind bars. Vanessa Collins is her sister. Ricky Allen is Denton's son. They remember her as a loving mother, devoted to her family.
She wasn't the type of person to commit such a horrific crime.
She is innocent, and I believe in her, and I want her home.
The man was killed is on ABC Avenue, which is off it runs parallel to State Street, which is US 1 North. So every time I head out US 1 North, I pass the house. So I remember the case.
Rick Curry is the former district attorney in Ware County. He personally prosecuted Denton's case. What was the most compelling evidence to you?
Generally, it was the confession. We had a confession from her to I hate to say a crack dealer, but somebody in the crack house. And she made a pretty good witness.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Curry is talking about Jones, of course, who admitted to selling crack to Denton the night Garner died. Listen to Jones read a letter to investigators explaining what she claims Denton told her.
She said, please open the door. I opened the door and she said, I just did something. I said, well, you did. She said, I just killed somebody. I said, who? She said, the man in front of Wallace.
Wally's is a convenience store directly across the street from Garner's home.
If I had not had the confession, it would have been a difficult case. The confession was the case.
Not everyone is buying it.
I would hesitate to call this a confession.
Mark London Brown is an attorney with the Southern Center for Human Rights. He says Jones's police interrogation and the confession that followed has all the hallmarks of a coerced statement. At first, Jones tells police she didn't know anything about Garner's death.
Have you talked to Sheila Denton since she's been in jail?
No,
Did Sheila ever tell you if she killed him?
no, no.
But then, detectives tell Jones they have a tape of someone putting her at the scene of the crime, and she begins to break down.
I don't know.
Would there be any reason for anybody to say they saw you over there near that house when this thing happened?
No, I wasn't there. I don't know. I didn't even know it
You can
happened.
decide right now whether you want to be a witness or you want to be a suspect
I don't
in
want
this
to
case,
be no
Sharon.
suspect.
Well, you need to tell me the truth right now. I'm tired of joking around.
I'm telling you the truth.
No, you're not.
It was a lie. There was no tape. A few hours later, Jones changed her story.
They told her that they had her fingerprints at the scene of the crime. They told her that they were going to lock her up. Her words were, they kept saying, I did it.
I know you know the man.
I don't know.
I know you've been there.
I know
I got
I've been
people
there.
placing you there.
So basically, it was only after being presented with this false evidence that she suddenly came up with this idea that Ms. Denton had made this brief admission to her.
To London Brown, the questionable confession isn't the most disturbing. It was something else. Coming up on The Reveal, a problem with evidence in Denton's case that could get her a new trial.
We can't incarcerate somebody for a lifetime based on subjective speculation masquerading as science.
Welcome back. A former district attorney who once claimed evidence linked a Georgia woman to murder is now changing his tune. Could the same evidence that put her in prison now set her free? Some forensic scientists say it should. Inside Eugene Garner's home, police identify evidence of a likely struggle. A lamp knocked to the floor, a leather belt splattered with blood, and a mattress out of place. But then something catches their eye on Garner's right arm, a scar they believe looks like a bite mark.
This is real serious, okay?
A few days later, detectives bring in Sheila Denton for questioning, and they notice a familiar scar.
Sheila, let me see your hands. Put your hands up here on the table for me, would you?
Police then hire a forensic dentist from Marietta, Georgia, to create molds of Garner and Denton's teeth. After comparing the molds to the bite marks, the dentist concludes the bite mark on the left arm of Sheila Denton was probably made by Eugene Garner, and the bite mark on the right arm of Eugene Garner was probably made by Sheila Denton. Former district attorney Rick Curry.
I think a jury would look at it and say, yeah, that's probably, yeah, she did that.
A bite mark.
Garner's son doesn't believe it.
How can you say that someone killed someone off of a bite mark? That don't necessarily say that you killed a person.
No research has been published.
Chris Fabricant is an attorney with the Innocence Project.
Bitemark analysis probably represents everything that is wrong in forensic science in our country today.
The majority of forensic scientists agree. In 2016, this report by the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology found bite mark analysis does not meet the scientific standards for foundational validity, calling it subjective, and that examiners cannot identify the source of bite marks with reasonable accuracy. Since 2005, at least 31 defendants incarcerated for bite mark evidence have been exonerated or had their indictments dismissed. That includes Alfred Swinton.
It feels so good.
In March 2018, a judge released Swinton after DNA evidence showed he was not the source of bite marks related to a 1991 homicide. He spent 18 years in prison for a crime he did not commit.
Right now, freedom, and thank God for the Innocent Project, every last one, and thank God, period.
Every single case that the Innocence Project has put its hands on in the last 5 years, every single one of those clients have ultimately been released from prison. And we can't incarcerate somebody for a lifetime based on subjective speculation masquerading as science, and that's exactly what happened to Miss Denton.
Do you truly believe the jury would have convicted her without that bite mark testimony?
Yes. He didn't testify that, in my professional opinion, this bite mark was made by Sheila Denton. He said it was probably.
But when a juror hears from someone that you guys are deeming an expert, and he says, I probably think it's her that bit him and vice versa, that's got to be pretty compelling.
Yeah, but he probably means probably.
While Curry downplays the bite mark testimony today, that wasn't the case during his 2006 closing arguments. According to court transcripts, Curry mentions bite mark evidence multiple times, even telling the jury, if that's all we had, I'd have to admit that's reasonable doubt. What Curry never mentions is that confession from Shannon Jones he now says was his most important piece of evidence, which Denton's attorneys believe was coerced.
You can decide right now whether you want to be a witness or you want to be a suspect in this case, Sharon.
And I would suggest that's why the district attorney didn't rely on it in his closing argument, and instead relied on bite mark evidence, which was at that point believed to be reliable, but we now know was utterly unreliable.
This past November, Loudon Brown filed a motion to ask a judge to grant Denton a new trial. In his brief, he included testimony from 5 other forensic dentists who reviewed Denton's case. All of them concluded the scars were either not bite marks at all or inconclusive at best. Do you think your mom got a fair trial?
Not at all.
Every single scientific entity that has looked at bite mark analysis has come to precisely the same conclusion. It's garbage. It should not be used in court.
Next, on The Reveal, a twist in the case, surprising Denton's legal team and her family. How big of a deal is this?
Well, I think it's a huge deal for Ms. Denton.
When I got the call, I was overwhelmed.
I said, I'm gonna call you right back.
On a busy sidewalk downtown Atlanta, Ricky Allen doesn't let his wheelchair slow him down. He's used to obstacles. A train accident took his legs at 13, and then he lost his mother, Sheila Denton, to life in prison a few months later.
For her not to be there, you know, under her own will, you feel me, it was just devastating.
Years later, Allen's learned there's now a chance he could see his mom free from incarceration after the Southern Center for Human Rights discovered a problem with evidence used to convict her. What was your reaction?
It's just disbelief. Like, I just couldn't believe it after so long.
The case involves the murder of Eugene Garner, found beaten to death inside his Waycross, Georgia home in 2004.
I wonder if you saw that.
The district attorney's office indicted Allen's mom with Garner's murder, claiming 2 pieces of evidence linked her to the crime. The first, an alleged confession Denton made to this woman, Shannon Jones, seen here during an interrogation.
I said, well, you did. She said, I just killed somebody.
But the DA's most compelling piece of evidence at the time? Bite marks found on the victim and Denton, showing a possible struggle between the two the evening Garner died. Denton's attorneys appealed the conviction. And then, in a rare move this February, Ware County Judge Dwayne Gillis issued an order, writing, bite mark evidence is inherently unreliable, even going as far to say, if the trial happened today, it would probably produce a different verdict. He then granted Denton a new trial. Mark Loudon Brown is Denton's attorney. How big of a deal is this?
Well, I think it's a huge deal for Ms. Denton, but I also think it's a very big deal for forensic science on a grander scale.
And the reality is, it's the subjectivity of Bitemark evidence that has always been at issue.
Dr. Rick Cardoza is one of 5 forensic dentists who reviewed Denton's case, concluding the scars on Denton and Garner were either not bite marks at all or inconclusive at best.
It was my opinion that the injury showed insufficient information to make a judgment as to whether this was a bite mark or not.
The judge recognized something else about Denton's case. It involves that witness, Shannon Jones, who Denton allegedly confessed to.
But she don't care who she hurt, man. She don't care what she say.
Judge Gillis agreed with what the Review reported in 2018, that Jones only came up with her story after detectives lied that they had evidence putting her at the scene of the crime.
The police actually said to Ms. Jones, you can either be a suspect or you can be a witness.
You decide right now whether you want to be a witness or you want to be a suspect.
And she's crying at this point. She says, I don't want to be a suspect. I don't want to be a suspect.
Well, you need to tell me the truth right now. I'm tired of joking around.
And then she comes up with this story.
There's also something else we learned about Jones in that interrogation. She was pregnant.
What do you do with his baby?
I'm pregnant now.
You know, I didn't know that.
Loudon Brown believes that would have given Jones more incentive to lie and place the blame on someone else. Weeks later, after the judge ordered a new trial, a surprise turn. The district attorney declined to prosecute Denton's new trial. And this past April, the 53-year-old is released from prison in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. That's her in the back seat, Denton and her attorneys wearing masks. And this is the moment she's reunited with her son 16 years later.
I was overwhelmed. When I got the call, she said that we're picking your mother up. We're on the way home. And I couldn't do nothing but smile. I was overjoyed.
Alan says his mom isn't ready to do interviews. She's too busy getting to know her grandchildren.
My kids love her. You know, it's her first time being around my 2-year-old. So it's like they met for the first time and knew each other all their life.
What do you hope people get out of your mom's story?
That to never give up, you know, always keep hope alive, you know, be there for them, be there. That's the most important thing, is being there. It gives them hope.
As of today, the state still has the ability to retry Miss Denton for murder. Shortly after her release, the Georgia Attorney General's office launched an investigation into the district attorney's office for possible prosecutorial misconduct unrelated to Denton's case. Despite its track record, most states still allow bite mark evidence used in trials today. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of The Reveal, the only local weekly investigative show in the country. We'll see you right back here next week on The Reveal. Good night.
For more on these investigations or to submit a tip to the Reveal team, text REVEAL to 404-873-9114 or email us at thereveal@11alive.com.
Turn around.
No.
Turn around. Our investigations have impact.
Is there a reason why you won't talk with me?
You've recently been indicted.
This is on the record.
Change laws.
We're going to look to see where maybe we need to change the laws.
But don't you think someone needs to be held accountable for this?
I don't have any comments on this, sir.
Expose crimes. Crimes that lead to murder indictments.
We would not be able to prosecute this case without that video.
See the 11 Alive investigators change the face of local news.